All right, so it is 1:05. I believe from what it looks like the attendees have stabilized from joining in, and we're good to go. So again, welcome to the webinar for Checking Families with the BIM Manager Suite. My name is Mike DiGirato. I'm one of the ATG technical specialists here, and we're going over this little tool part of the BIM Manager Suite, how to use it, best practices, and kind of what I've seen that's been successful so far. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to just type a message in chat with your question, or alternatively, there is a Q&A section part of Zoom. You can go ahead and just type any question in at the end. We're probably going to give about 10, 15 minutes to go over Q&A. And if not, my email is in the chat that I just posted a second ago. And if there are any further questions past the actual webinar, just feel free, shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer them at any point in time, even if it's tomorrow, a week, month down the line. And we'll just go from there. And just to finalize one final thing on my end, there we go. All right. So one thing I want to go over with this webinar is the family checker. I've used personally the CTC tool suite at I believe 2 or 3 previous firms at this point. And for a lot of us, we usually, if we build house or families in-house, that's great. We know how we built them. We know how they work. If we typically download them, which is a very normal thing out there, or your firm normally just downloads. Oh yes, sorry Marvin. Yes, it is in this chat. But like I was saying, if you download families, you never know where they come from. You don't have that same standard. A lot of us usually have to go through, if we've been in a BIM manager position or in a position similar, we have to go through and clean up families, see what the problem has been, if there is one, clear out any hosted families, or sorry, nested families, and kind of go from there and just hope for the best after we clean them out and just make sure they work and troubleshoot any issues past that. After we get to that point, we kind of just hope that they'll be good going forward. There will be no more issues. Family checker, which if you have the CTC suite or specifically CTC BIM Manager Suite, you have access to the family checker as well as the free tools in there that you can get just for doing a trial. But with the family checker, it's a very simple and very powerful tool. And actually, let's get into it. So I have up here our MEP Productivity Suite. I'm not going to go through all the families inside of it. I want to just, for a baseline for everybody to see what it can do, actually go through normal Revit out of the box families. I feel like that's a pretty good baseline from the makers of Revit. And just to start out, I have 4 basic families we're going to go over today. I have a nested supply diffuser that is ceiling hosted. I have a typical cabinet or base cabinet built in. I also have a recessed light. And finally, I have a shower, which does have actually connections for pipe. So we're going to go through, we're going to see what this tool actually does for each one and kind of get a feel for what it can do for us. One thing I do want to point out is some of these you want to take with a grain of salt. A lot of it is very specific, and the developers have developed this to be very accurate and get the results that they saw from the software side, and also give you an idea of what to look for in either families you've made, the standard your company has for families, and what you download from manufacturers or other companies. So just to go ahead and begin, just to access each tool from the CTC software kit, you just go up here to CTC software. It's either here or same thing. It'll be down the line a little bit more if you're in a project. But to access the family checker or any type of family-like tool, like the family processor, for example, you have to be in an actual family. If not, it'll throw an error or it'll just come out blank and ask you, where's the family? Just to go in, we're going to go ahead and open it up. It gives you a, very basic, if you've used any other tool that checks either a single family or a single piece of content or several, this is a very typical screen for you. If you have any questions about this specific tool or any other toolkit part of CTC, all these tools actually have under help a built-in PDF that I actually do not have up. But once you click help, just to do it live, at Bluebeam, but whatever default PDF you have or PDF viewer, it'll just go ahead and come up. And you could just go, if I go all the way back up, you'll have the, oh, and it's gone. Cool. I love Bluebeam, but it'll come up through and you can go through everything just to maximize it here. It has all the way from the top the family selection that reports. You could choose to do either current family or multiple family files. This can take a while, and if you want to check all your company's families or all the families in a project that might have been downloaded, you can do that. Just be aware it will be a little bit slower than doing a single family. If you want to do, and I've done this before in the past, every family inside of a folder on your network, you can actually search for that. I don't personally recommend it because it will take a while, but if you have the time or even a spare machine you could do this on, that'll be perfect for the situation. It'll give you a report for all the families, or I believe it either splits it up per family or for all the families you've done. You could just go through. I believe you can actually export it to an Excel, and it comes by natively in an Excel format. So you just copy paste it to Excel, start filtering as you need, and go from there. Gives you options to include backup files if you want, or search in subfolders as well. Again, this will take a while, so don't completely recommend it since it does. I've done thousands of families before too. But just to go ahead and go through a single family, and like I said before, we're going to go through the supply diffuser starting out. We're going to go ahead and just click here at the bottom, check family, and it should take about a minute or so to do. Just as it's processing and hopefully not crashing thanks to Revit. It'll go through, just as you saw there a second ago, a little path of where it is. So if for some reason, let's say you have the same family in two different spots, you can see that it's processing the family that's not in the project folder, for example, if your file structure has a spot for families. But just to maximize this, so it'll come up with this screen and it'll go through pretty default information. So starting out tells you what it is. So Revit Family Health Checklist. I'll give you a basic summary. And this can, or I would personally take this with a grain of salt. Some of the stuff here says non-compliant. It it really is up to your own interpretation of what you consider to be non-compliant. For example, 2D ready, non-compliant. That's just going for, line work inside of it to make sure it works in 2D. It's Revit. A lot of times I've personally never cared about 2D. I'm mostly worried about, coordination in 3D. But it'll give you basic data like the review number that it's is generated per review. So if you have multiple reviews, you can tell which one's which. It'll give you a date, then when you did it, the family model or family type, the family category. And going through, you could go ahead and I usually use this for comments personally of what I've seen that's wrong in them because I have to pass it off to a coworker. It'll give you a brief description on what the below sections kind of entail. So it'll give you, for example, this will be planning Revit model content. And it'll give you the first section and if action is recommended or required, what is recommended or required in that section. And then just some quick little notes just to keep in mind. And right here, we're actually starting out in the actual set of issues that this has seen. So right off the bat, we have the same thing, family name, manufacturer, family category, part type, date, and review number. Right here, right off the bat, we're seeing that for 2D ready is giving you actually required for detail level and changes in detail level for plan and RCP. And tells you right here a quick little spiel telling you the plan view has been named reference level, has identical appearance and fine and coarse detail levels, which if you work in an environment that requires you to have separate detail levels, and just as an example, electrical, you'd have your symbology and then your 3D content. This would be something to keep in mind because if your 3D content, the actual shape of, for example, a junction box that's wall mounted, if that's on at the same time as a symbology, that could cause some visibility issues as you're printing or if something else might happen. I've seen cases where there was too much content that was too small together. So, an AV and a power outlet next to each other, or maybe a couple of feet away, and just the print driver didn't like that specifically. This would be something to keep in mind in that situation. Um, Let's see what is next. Action recommended for element visibility. Plan view or the plan view is named reference level contains the following visible 3D objects and tells you exactly what it is and the object ID within that family, which if you've had pretty extreme families with a lot of different content in it, this is awesome for that, as you can see exactly what it is. Let's see, just going on from there. This is for metadata. So it says your action required, identity data parameter population, the main identity parameters are present in this field. And it says it's missing or an empty parameter for manufacturer. So this specific field is empty. For some of us, again, grain of salt, I've personally never cared about the manufacturer in design. In actual construction and coordination, this is a big thing for me. So if I'm, for example, making a family um, in a you know construction setting, and I want to know exactly what each manufacturers for each part to then schedule them, and then, for example, export out an Excel sheet to my manager to then start getting quotes. This would be very important to have there. Um, just going through some other stuff through here. So this is section 2 for model content creation standards. Again, some of it is up to interpretation whether you should or should not care about this depending on your specific role. For construction, a lot of this kind of stuff that it will matter. For design, it the what's the usual saying? They'll figure out in the field. That's kind of what you got to think about. But for a lot of this stuff, it's all very intuitive and easy to figure out. They'll give you all the errors exactly in this, or sorry, in this panel or column right here from what is it, AD to AX. Um, and as you keep going down, there'll be more sections. For example, right here is about materials. And this says it does not have a material assigned. If you're an MEP, you kind of don't care about materials. But for example, an architect or somebody in interior design, materials will matter, especially in your renderings. I've seen cases where the rendering team might be overburdened. They don't have time to actually add in every single material exactly. Doing something small like this in Revit can go a very long way. They just have to edit, a few parameters inside their actual material settings inside of 3D Max, for example. Then they're good to go. Other than that, this one for me is pretty important for hosting. We've all gotten families that we don't know how they're hosted. And if you want a quick little check, this is we saw took, I guess, 10 seconds, maybe 15. And this tells us exactly how it's hosted. So we're not sitting after we download a family trying to figure out, okay, is it wall? Is it ceiling? Is it reference plane? Which one is it? And just keep going down since I have to go through 3 other families real quick. Category assigned must be checked manually. Some of these give you manual checks. That's one thing I almost forgot to mention. These manual checks, if you've built a family, you'll know you have to go through this. If they were downloaded from the manufacturer, it's important to check. And let's see, what else? This is, file size. This one's always been a big one for me personally that I want to point out. File size matters a lot, especially in bigger projects. I've done, skyscrapers that pretty much are, God, I think one was like half a gig. No, more than that. It was about a gig plus. And if you've worked on a massive project like that, you know how big of a struggle it is to keep size down. And we've all probably gotten families that are massive in size, and we got to go and trim them down. And this information you also find inside the family itself. So pretty nice, and just to have it there. One thing I would recommend, as you guys are actually using this, if you export this, you can just go ahead and copy paste everything, do Control C, Control V to an Excel sheet, and go from there and actually start using this for a lot of different families. If you, for some reason, have a new engineer or architect that just started on their Revit path, you can actually get a report of all the families they've downloaded for a project, go through which ones have been good or bad. If they built them, same thing. And then you can actually give them something to work off of on what they could improve, what the families that they are either downloading or the content that they're making. So that's one thing that I've at least done in the past to kind of help out the team, both my own and the actual design teams. But to go through, let's go through a different one. So that was the, and my zoom is in the way here, the supply diffuser. Let's go ahead and do the base cabinet. Actually, no, I want to do something a little bit more fun. Let's do the actual shower. So same thing, CTC, going to the family checker, and we're going to do just the current family. This one again should take about, what, 10, 15 seconds. And let's see. Oh, and as we see here, it shows you the actual file path to the family that I was talking about a second ago. And there we go. And we see about almost the same thing with this one, about the same things, red, yellow, and green. Let's see, it says MEP connector is acceptable, Revit hosting is acceptable, materials non-compliant, which I believe I'm looking at the, can't see because of Zoom. This should be the MEP one, which I believe in Revit by default, it does not have materials because it's MEP. And looking through, about the same issues we see on the last one. Again, kind of grain of salt here. Master parameter file usage, there is one in use. Let's see, missing manufacturer. I do see some element visibility issues with several extrusions, and I believe, there we go. If you double click in any box that is, has a lot of information in it, it'll, expand as you just saw, give you element IDs. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Going through the same sections, there are MEP connectors used. What is this one saying? So connector description. So connector named sanitary is not linked. That's a pretty big one. Let's see, domestic cold water is not linked, and then domestic hot water is not linked. Okay, cool. And then let's see, this other issue that I see in red that could be a problem. This is, materials. There we go. So there's no material applied to this. Oh, all of these different parts. This is actually very good that actually shows this. If by any chance anybody here does do families for a multidisciplinary firm, this is something to check. Not often, but usually when you think you finally finished a family after several iterations. I've personally missed one or two parts, like a leg or a small little piece on a family that didn't have a materially assigned, and then it would come back, comments, questions, red lines, and we'd have to go from there. Let's see, keep going down, and let's see, detail levels and elevation in 3D. I believe it was the same on the last one. Let's see, just going through some of the red stuff here. This could prove parameter usage. Too few parameters are taken from seek shared parameter files. Okay, interesting. And let's see. Ooh, this is a big one. Reference plane naming. This I didn't see in the last family, but this is a big one. If you've taken any course with creating families, you'll know that the big things a lot of people harp on about is making sure all your reference planes are named. So you know which one's which, where's front, back, left, right, top, down, just because it makes things easier. And if for some reason someone else on the line looks in that specific family that you've created and they don't know what's going on because nothing is named, it'll be a little bit harder for them to go and edit that family. Having this that actually tells you which exact reference plane is or isn't named is great, because if you've omitted one or two for whatever reason by accident or on purpose, this will tell you later on when you check it. If someone's built a family for you, you see exactly what is or isn't named. Most manufacturer content nowadays should have everything named and have most of the materials and everything else applied. But if not, you can check it with this as well, see what isn't or is named. Sometimes some of these reference planes, again, with a grain of salt, do you need to have them named? No, but it would be very nice to have them for either yourself later on, other staff members. Maybe you have some staff in each department that can or knows how to edit families. This would be great for them to make sure everything is, named properly. And going through, yeah, that was about it for this. One thing I usually check right before I start is the category. I've been, well, I've caught myself, I should say, forgetting to actually put a category down, because usually everything is, as we know, a rush job to get done. This was great for me because I can see, hey, I forgot to do this. I go and change it real quick, rerun the report, good to go from there. Let's see. And let's just do, because we're kind of running short on time, the recess light here. So let's go ahead and do family checker again. Let's see what it gives us. So let's check our family, giving us the nice little file path. And I'm actually timing it here. Make sure it does it right. There we go. Cool. So we see, yep, lighting fixtures, awesome. See the light, pretty standard naming convention. A couple things different here as well. We see a lot in red, a lot less in yellow, and only one set to optimal. So just going to skip all this, go ahead and go down. We see about the same issues here, as is with most families. We see reference level is an issue that this doesn't like. Missing manufacturer. Let's see. Stating here that the parameter load classification is not grouped properly. That's good to know. I would personally like to see why it's not grouped properly, but that's just me. I could probably check here right after I'm out of the screen to see why it isn't grouped properly according to this. Let's see, all family geometry flexes as expected. That's nice. And it says here, all these components are partially constrained. That's good to know if you make, a lot of families, for example. Actually, one thing I was dealing with recently is fittings for, I think it was PVC, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was gray iron. Either way, um, you could check through this after you've built a very complex family, like a pipe fitting, um, to make sure that you actually constrained everything properly, or didn't over constrain something. That way, as someone on your team is using that, it doesn't just break completely, and then you have to completely stop and go ahead and work on it and fix it. Other than that, these look pretty normal. Let's see. The not all the important parameters on the connector named power unbalanced are linked. Okay, that's good to know. Let's see, this is another material issue because this does not have materials, and we only see this has, I believe, 4 parts, which I think, if I remember correctly, that sounds right. Let's see, sort of formatting. Again, materials, that's mostly for architects. Let's see, host flexes testing failed. Manual testing recommended. Okay, that's very good to know. Other than that, detail level, same issue as usual. I believe almost every family out of the box will have these same problems all around. And let's see, same thing with the seek shared parameter file. And let's see, what is this preview image? I didn't see this before. That's good to know. And yep, same thing with right here. All these reference planes are unnamed. Okay, that's very good to know. And just go back through. So where was there we go. So these 3 parameters are not grouped properly. Let's see, let's actually check that out. Oh, I actually got to exit this. So let's see, it was load classification, ballast number, and ballast voltage. Okay. And just to see exactly here what the problem is with this one, and it's on my other screen. Okay, so it's grouped under electrical. That's interesting. I wonder why this is calling it as being incorrect. I wonder if it should be under loads. Maybe that's why it's acting up. But there we go. We see that it doesn't like these being here. I assume it's because it has to be under loads or electrical lighting. Most likely electrical lighting. Just going through real quick here. Where are my materials? Yep, so if we go to materials, we'll most likely see, well, actually, these are actual materials. Let's see here. Let's just start clicking around. There we go. So I don't see it has a material assigned by category, which is, if my other screen would cooperate here, I apologize for that. There we go. So this is set to diffuser material, which diffuser material is, where is it? Where are you? Yep, set to by category. There we go. Now we just found out that that's pretty much why that's giving us an error. So yeah, that was pretty much, I'm not going to go through the cabinet. It's very simple, not really focused on MEP. But this was a pretty, quick and dirty way to check through families, kind of go through issues, see what could be wrong with them, what couldn't be, things to improve on as you go out and work on families, and kind of improve your process overall. I've used this before, especially when I started out, because I, was new as a BIM manager and I needed all the help I could get. And we've all been, thrown in the fray to kind of sink or swim or fight or flight. And this helped out a lot for me. Um, and yeah, I guess since we're doing great on time, actually, let's go ahead and do some Q&A. I already see from Joe there is one thing here, and Joe says I would recommend to export the families from the project using the CTC family exporter if families have been already, or sorry, if families have already been uploaded to the project before checking them. That is very good. That I didn't even think of that. So thank you. That's awesome. Um, so yeah, if you didn't know, let's just go here within. If I could see, because my Zoom is in the way. Where is it? So the family exporter. I am blind as a bat. There we go. So right here under the Bash Suite, the family exporter will let you export families from a project in mass. Um, and just to show exactly what I'm talking about here, there is a couple ways to do this. You could go to the exact family, and this is out of the MEPPP. And you can go ahead and do save to save a family out if anybody here didn't know, or you could do save, which will save everything. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't used the Bash Suite that much. Um, the exporter will let you export. Actually, I could just use it if I have a license here. Will actually let you export certain families. Yep, there we go. So let you do it by category. So cool. I learned something today. I mostly use the BIM Manager Suite because I was a BIM manager. So that's mostly what I'm used to. But yeah, this will let you export things by category, which is actually very nifty and would have saved me a lot of time in the past if I knew about it. And let's see. Any other questions? I'm gonna mark this as answered. There we go. All right. So before we proceed, or before we continue any further, anyone else got any other questions? Anything on their mind, I guess, with this, or anything to add that maybe I'm gonna miss along the way with the presentation? All right. Well, if nobody else has any other questions going forward, thank you all for attending. We appreciate everybody, coming through and checking out the family checker. I hope to an extent this helped. If anybody here has any questions beyond this meeting today, or any questions in the future, or just want to have a conversation about either, CTC, ATG, any of the tools, anything in Revit you might have a problem with, or just a problem with families, projects that you haven't able to figure out, feel free to reach out. I am always here. I'm actually Eastern or Northeastern US. I'm actually in cloudy Maryland today. So if anybody has any questions or really anything across their mind, feel free to reach out. I'm going to post here my email once more in chat so everybody can have it. This video will be on YouTube if other staff in your companies want to review it. And yeah, if anyone else has any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out. I am here Monday through Friday. And yeah, thanks for attending again, and I will see everyone later.